Welcome to Life Affair. My name is James Atkinson. Thank you very much for tuning to join this week's episode. Now, in this week's episode, I have only watched the first 30 seconds. I've seen no other clips. Now, it's a long video, so we'll be jumping ahead a little bit. But this girl has managed to turn her hair from what you see now into a beautiful blonde colour all by herself. I don't know how she's done it. I've got no idea. I've not seen 1 minute of it in terms of application. In fact, I've not even watched a whole minute. I just saw the intro, which shows you the before and after. It's insane. Anyway, if you enjoy hair education, then please do subscribe. There is lots and lots of videos to enjoy here on the channel. And I'll see you again next week for another episode of The Life of Hair.
I'm just going to split that hair in half. And then I'll just start with this one section here behind my ear. And I'm going to direct all of the hair forwards and pop a foil as close to behind my ear as possible, so that I can keep the tension nice and tight and make sure that my foil doesn't slip out of place. So I'm not very concerned with the roots. I don't really care how they look. I'm just trying to get all of my ends covered as much as possible. And then at the end I'm going to go in with like a root drag anyway.
Okay, I don't know if this girl's a hairdresser. I can only imagine she is. She didn't say, or certainly I didn't hear her say, that she is a hairdresser. Interesting technique, hot cross bun through the centre of the occipital bone at the back. Actually, how I pre-section a lot of my foil techniques. The really interesting part is that vertical section down the back there. That's really interesting. As she mentioned, she's not that bothered about the roots, so that's okay. She doesn't have to be too teasy with the brush. She's going to do a root stretch or a root shadow, which is fascinating.
The hair on the top, like where my parting is and that sort of stuff, that's where I'm really going to concentrate on the roots and making sure that it's like a really nice blend.
Right. I mean, okay, I'll eat my hat and my top. I don't have a hat on. I'll eat my top if she's not a hairdresser, because she's saying she's really going to focus on the parting. Yeah, I mean, you know, that's probably the way that a hairdresser might think of it, which is a smart play, because that's the bit everybody sees, guys. Very rarely does anybody look underneath. I mean, they do, but you know what I mean? It's not, if she's going to put a root stretch on it, then yeah, the underneath's not going to make a huge amount of difference, as she's not that bothered. Very, very interesting. I'd love to know if she's a hairdresser.
And also, taking vertical sections means that even if my blend to the root isn't completely perfect and seamless, I won't get any harsh horizontal lines, which will be really visible when I've got my hair out. I'm also going to make sure that I fold all of my foils properly. Sometimes you could be lazy and just fold them in half and then fold it in half again. But I'm going to make sure that I'm folding the sides of each foil in as well, because that's going to make sure that my lightener doesn't dry out. Watching this video back, the sections that I was taking were definitely not as thin as they felt. So that's just something to consider if you're doing it on yourself and you feel like you've taken a thin section.
Fascinating application. She's right about the section size. Obviously, they look a bit thick, but I've seen the end result, and they obviously don't play out that way. I've actually never done vertical sections in the back like that with over direction forward. I actually want to try it, because she's dead right about it not giving harsh horizontal lines. Fascinating. And it's great watching videos like this, because you actually learn something. I mean, I've learned something just watching this. Let's see how she cracks on with that crown area, because there's a lot of hair to take on there. She's got all the way from the top of the occipital bone all the way through to the highest point in the head. She said it was by a crown, but a crown's probably further back than that, unless she's got a very high crown.
L'Oreal Professional, and it's the 8-level lift lightener. And I'm going in with a 20 volume developer. Because I am putting my hair in a foil, I don't want to go in with a 30 vol, and I think that's just going to be a bit harsh on my hair, especially for the first foils that I'm putting in.
Fascinating. So she's taken like a section out the top here now. So she's done it in 3 sections, occipital bone, probably to then the crown, another section, and then she's got a little bit left at the top. Same ideology, pulling her forward, obviously to see, but that's also helping her create a nice blend at the root area. I'm intrigued by this technique. I literally want to do this technique myself, because of those vertical sections and the over direction. Over direction, guys, always creates softness.
I'm going to start taking out these bottom ones because I don't want them to over process. The reason I'm doing slices instead of weaving is because my goal is to be as blonde as possible in one process. So going from brown to blonde is never going to be the exact perfect colour in one go. But if you imagine that a weave is a 50-50 split, then so you've got 50% brown and 50% of the hair is going into a foil. then that means the lightener is only going to be lightening 50% of my hair and the rest will be left dark. So overall the colour won't be as light. So going in with slices just means that I'll be getting as much coverage as possible, which is just going to be the fastest way to get as blonde as possible.
I believe wholeheartedly she's a hairdresser. There's just no way that she would know all this. I don't know, maybe she would. Maybe the people are that clued up on the internet today, because I know what hairdressers are going to be sitting there saying it's because of people like you, James, because of people like you giving away too much information. But yeah, it's true to a degree, but it also helps new hairstylists going into the industry that don't have the ability to, be able to afford more expensive classes. Really, really interesting. So she's going to tackle that top section now. I'm assuming she's going to use the same technique, but she might also paint forward. But let's find out.
This top section is going to be really important because it's going to sit over all of these parts. So this is going to be like the top, most visible outer layer, if that makes sense. So these foils I'm going to weave like highlights rather than just like taking slices. And I'm going to be a lot more careful to take really small, fine sections, because as I say, I want it to be like really nice and well blended. I'm just going to take little diagonal sections across the whole section.
Okay, super interesting application style. So weaving, I mean, that was clever the way she brought it down and then she weaved the section. Really, really interesting. And obviously then going back in and working her way backwards, but in a diagonal across the crown area, which is really smart. I actually diagonally go across the crown area in a lot of instances. Yeah, this is insane. And this is now making a lot of sense as to when you see the result in a minute, as to why it is so, so good. So let's jump to some of the front sections. So as we can see, she's put the front sections in. She's done exactly the same thing. She's brought everything forward. Very smart. So, I'm just loving this idea of pulling everything forward, using over direction to create extra softness. I've got to give this a go. I'm going to have to find a client, a model, a mannequin head, something to give it a go on to see how it plays out. Well, I've seen how this plays out, but, when you're doing it on a client, it's very different. I mean, the fact that it looks this good when you see the end result on someone that's done their own hair, if someone was actually doing this, it's going to look even better. And clearly she's extremely talented at doing her own hair, but it's just so much easier standing above somebody, of course. So she's just got this top section to do now. So let's skip ahead to that. Let's see how she tackles that.
Done, like it really refreshes the whole look and it's really easy. So you're just going to split your hair in the middle if you have a middle parting, or just wherever you usually part it, if it's like your centre. And then you're just going to start by taking a really fine slice right at your hairline, and you want to sort of create a little bit of a diagonal angle backwards away from your parting. And then you're just going to put in your first foil, no weaving, just slice it and pop the foil in right there, just like that. And then just paint that on. And just stop wherever that bleach meets your...
So not only is she colouring her entire head blonde, she's actually doing a money piece just to top everything off, just to make herself even more talented at doing her own hair, or doing hair in general. She must be pretty good at doing hair, full stop, to be this good at doing her own hair. I would not be able to achieve this if I had such luscious locks. Super interesting technique. Obviously, we've now gone into quite a pedestrian technique. If you're a hairdresser, this is just a herringbone diagonal sections through the partings. If you've not seen anything like that before, I've got a highlighting tutorial on the channel for you to go and enjoy. So application wise here, you can see that she's going through, she's weaving the sections because it's through the parting. As she'd mentioned previously, she's doing that to ensure that she gets maximum blending at the root area. She's taking them out as she goes through, really clever. I mean, she's weaved the sides. It was only the underneath that she did slices, and obviously in the areas where you're not going to see the hair so much. I think she's done a few slices in other areas. You can see her lifting up the section there and saturating the hair more to make sure she gets both sides of the section. Super, super clever.
Okay, so now I'm going to be balayaging the ends that I've left out, but because I want to kind of imagine where they're going to sit, I'm going to start to split the hair in half, and I'm going to balayage it sideways rather than like forward, so that I get rid of any like stripes that have been put in with.
Going to whole new levels now. She's tipping out the ends And as you saw there, she separated it out so it sits roughly where her hair's going to be parted. Once you see the end result, you'll know why I'm like, what the hell? Because the way that she's gone about this is just, so unbelievably well done for somebody doing their own hair. And I've made a video similar to this previously where people were saying that it's edited and cut and da-da-da-da. I mean, unless they actually got somebody doing the hair and it's a complete farce. Okay, as you can see, the result is ridiculously good. Even if somebody else had done this, it would be a good result. The fact that she's done this on her own hair is bonkers. This girl's called Rachel McKeown. Anyway, I'll write it here so you can see it. Look, I don't care if a professional did this. If I did that, I'd be pleased with it, right? Doing it on her, never mind doing it to myself. This result is insane. I mean, 10 out of freaking 10. Amazing. Some people are so good at colouring their own hair. It's wild. Go and give her a follow. Go and see what else she's put out there. I haven't seen any other videos. I just saw the thumbnail, the before and the after, and that she'd done her own hair at home. The title of this video was called Bleaching My Own Brown Hair to Blonde at Home Extreme Transformation. That is an understatement of a lifetime. The level of skill to make someone's hair this beautiful. Now, obviously, we can't section off and see through the back and blah, blah, blah. That's going to have to be left to the imagination. But for all intensive purposes, you've just seen her, here's my result clip. It's insane. No, I don't, you and me would be like walking down the road saying, oh, that girl's hair looks lovely. Never for 1 second would I, or maybe anybody else, assume that she did that to herself. Crazy, crazy good job, Rachel. Well done.